Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a really fascinating piece of source material you sent us, sections of a play. It's one that's been making people laugh and think for well over a century now. The Importance of Being Earnest, a trivial comedy for serious people by Oscar Wilde.
That's right. We've got Act 1, Act 2, and the beginning of Act 3 here, all from the Project Gutenberg text.
So our mission really is to navigate this world. Wilde builds it's all wit and artifice and pull out the moments, the lines, the characters that give us the most interesting insights from this specific source material. Get ready for a deep dive into a society where tiny things are treated deadly seriously and, the serious stuff, almost casually disregarded. Wilde called it a trivial comedy for serious people, and I think we're about to see exactly why.
Yeah, it's a masterclass, really, using the absurd to comment on, well, very real social constraints of Victorian England.
Okay, let's jump into Act 1. We start in Algernon Moncrieff's flat. It's quite fashionable, Half Moon Street in London. And almost straight away, we get a feel for this world through Algernon and his manservant, Lane.
Their opening chat is it's a perfect example of how Wilde uses these seemingly small details to, show character and poke fun at social norms. Lane's totally deadpan report on marriage, for instance.
Right, he's only been married once. And his theory about why servants drink more champagne in bachelor houses versus married ones is because of the quality of the wine, he says. Not any, moral failing. It's this completely upside-down view that just sets the tone, doesn't it?
Exactly. It tells you immediately that the sort of accepted rules often hide the real, often self-serving reasons behind how people act. And speaking of things treated with a surprising seriousness...
The cucumber sandwiches.
Oh, yes.
Specially ordered for Algernon's Aunt Augusta, the formidable Lady Bracknell. They become this, running gag, a point of tension right from the get-go.
A tiny detail, yeah, but the fuss caused by them maybe not being there, it immediately signals how appearances and what's expected matter way more than anything substantial here.
So into this scene steps Jack Worthing, though in town, everyone knows him as Ernest. And Algernon, well, he's got a sharp eye for hypocrisy, doesn't he? He's instantly suspicious.
Yeah, Algernon finds Jack's cigarette case, and the inscription basically gives the game away. From little Cecily, with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack.
Ah! So the guy known as Ernest in London is actually Uncle Jack to a Cecily somewhere out in the country. This forces Jack to explain himself, right? It's old double life.
Right. He spills the beans. He's guardian to this Miss Cecily Cardew, who lives out in the country with her governess, Miss Prism. And to get away from his duties there, have some fun in the city, he invented this wicked younger brother named Ernest. This fake brother is his excuse for going to town.
So that's his bun burying. That's the term.
Which Algernon immediately gets because he does it too. He has this imaginary invalid friend, Bunbury, supposedly living in the country. Visiting poor Bunbury lets Algie dodge boring social stuff like dinner with Aunt Augusta.
It's a whole system built entirely on lies of convenience, making up people just to avoid the real ones. It shows how much they value, freedom from duty over just being honest.
And this system, this Bunburying, it's immediately put under pressure when Lady Bracknell herself arrives with her daughter Gwendolyn Fairfax.
And Algernon, quick as a flash, uses Bunbury's sudden relapse as his excuse to get out of Lady Bracknell's dinner party.
And Lady Bracknell's reaction to Bunbury's poor health, it's just classic Wilde. She's not really concerned about Bunbury. She's furious about the inconvenience his illness causes her social plans. She says he needs to make up his mind about living or dying. And she just dismisses modern sympathy with invalids as morbid. Health for her is just a primary duty.
Wow. It really highlights how even something like health is seen through this lens of social usefulness, not, actual human feeling. While she's distracted with Algernon and poor Bunbury, Jack takes his chance and proposes to Gwendolyn.
And she accepts, which seems simple enough until she reveals this, pretty significant condition. Her lifelong dream, apparently, has been to marry someone named Ernest.
The name Ernest. She says it inspires absolute confidence and even produces vibrations. She literally says she couldn't marry a man named John. It's not just a preference, it's like an absolute deal breaker. The name itself has some kind of magic power for her.
Exactly. It's the first big clue that for these characters, identity is tied much more to a label, a name, than to who someone actually is. Then Lady Bracknell turns her attention to Jack for the formal interview, checking if he's suitable for Gwendolyn.
She runs down the list. Smoking. Approved. Shows occupation, apparently. Age, 29, that's okay. Knowledge. He claims to know nothing, which she also approves of. Ignorance, it seems. helps preserve the upper classes.
His money, 7 or 8,000 a year, and property, country house, townhouse, those are acceptable too. Though, the townhouse is on the unfashionable side, which she notes can be altered. Money and property, those are fixable things, you see.
But then she asks about his parents, and this is where the source material gives us a really surprising look into what this society values, or rather, what it doesn't.
Jack has to confess he doesn't know who his parents are. He was found as a baby.
In a handbag. A large black leather handbag left in the cloakroom at Victoria Station. The Brighton line, specifically.
Lady Bracknell's reaction is just priceless and so revealing. Her horror isn't just snobbery, though there's plenty of that. It's the ultimate social crime. She flatly refuses to let her daughter marry into a cloakroom or form an alliance with a parcel. It's like, if you don't have the right paperwork, the right origin story, you're not even a person eligible for marriage into her family. You're luggage.
She actually tells him to acquire some relations, ideally a parent, before the London season ends. Like you can just go out and shop for a family. After she storms out, Jack tells Algernon he's decided to kill off his imaginary brother Ernest. A severe chill contracted in Paris should do it. Very efficient.
Algernon, meanwhile, ever the opportunist, overhears Jack talking about Cecily and is immediately intrigued. He wants to meet her, especially when Jack mentions maybe sending her off somewhere like Australia.
Gwendolyn pops back in to see Jack, reaffirms her devotion. She still thinks he is Ernest, gives him her address, and asks for his country address. Algernon, lurking, sneakily jots it down on his shirt cuff.
Uh-oh. That's a clear sign. Algernon plans to follow this imaginary brother trail. Act 1 wraps up with Algernon telling Lane he's off Bunburying himself, expecting to be back Monday. It perfectly sets the stage for all these deceptions to collide.
And collide they absolutely do. Let's move to Act 2. The scene shifts now, out to the country. It's the garden at the Manor House in Woolton, Hertfordshire. That's Jack's country place. Looks peaceful, right?
Deceptively so. We meet Cecily Cardew and her governess, Miss Prism. Cecily's meant to be studying German, but nope, she's busy writing in her diary.
Ah, yes, Cecily's diary. Another really interesting element here. She said she keeps it to record wonderful secrets and even things that couldn't possibly have happened, and she actually intends to get it published someday. It's a deliberate mixing of reality and fiction, isn't it? Just like Jack and Algernon making up identities.
And Miss Prism pipes up that she once wrote a novel herself, a 3-volume one, though the manuscript was, sadly, lost or abandoned. Their little chat about fiction, especially happy versus unhappy endings, kind of sets up the play's own comedic structure.
Dr. Chasuble shows up then. He's the local rector.
Mm-hmm.
And Cecily, ever the romantic plotter, immediately tries to get him and Miss Prism to go for a walk together. You can tell Cecily just loves a bit of drama, even if he has to manufacture it herself.
They have this slightly awkward discussion about marriage versus celibacy, and Dr. Chasuble mentions his sermon. Apparently it's very adaptable, works for almost any occasion, even mourning, which, as it turns out, is quite convenient.
Very convenient indeed, because just then, Jack arrives, unexpectedly, and he's dressed head to toe in black. Deep mourning.
He announces that his brother Ernest has died, suddenly, in Paris, from that severe chill he planned earlier. Miss Prism immediately sees it as some kind of moral lesson. Dr. Chasuble offers condolences.
But Jack's real reason for being there comes out pretty fast. He asks Dr. Chasuble if he does christenings, says he wants to be christened himself that very afternoon and take the name, Ernest.
He's going to actually become the identity he invented. Dr. Chasuble agrees, though he mentions he has some other christenings lined up, twins, I think. Jack insists on his own time slot, 5:30, specifically saying he finds the idea of being christened alongside babies childish. Even when he's trying to be sincere, there's still this layer of, well, affectation.
Right, so just as Jack's arranging his identity switch, Merriman, the butler, makes an announcement. Mr. Ernest Worthing has just arrived from the station, luggage and all.
Dun, dun, dun. The supposedly dead brother walks in. Cecily is absolutely thrilled. She's been dying to meet this wicked Ernest she's heard so much about. She even worries he might look disappointingly normal. She wants him to embody the wickedness she's imagined.
And in walks Algernon, of course, using the address he nicked off Jack's cuff, posing as Ernest.
Oh.
Cecily is just fascinated by his supposed double life. You know, good in the country, wicked in town. She actually says she hopes he isn't just pretending to be wicked. It's another twist, wanting the reputation for badness.
Algernon, meanwhile, is a bit taken aback to hear that Jack apparently plans to ship him, as Ernest, off to Australia. He wastes no time, though, starts flirting with Cecily immediately, comparing her to a pink rose.
Which Cecily, naturally, copies straight into her diary, blurring those lines again between real life and her fantasy romance. Then Algernon proposes marriage.
And Cecily drops another bombshell. She tells him they've already been engaged. For 3 months. It's all been happening entirely inside her diary, based on things Jack mentioned about his brother.
She even shows him the diary entries, detailing this whole elaborate, completely made-up courtship. She wrote letters from him to herself, bought herself a ring, and even broke off the engagement on March 22nd.
Why break off an engagement that doesn't even exist outside your diary? Because, she explains, a really serious engagement has to be broken off at least once. It's all about the performance of seriousness, isn't it? Even if the whole thing is pure fiction.
And just like Gwendolyn, Cecily makes it crystal clear she could never love him if his name was Algernon. It has to be Ernest. That's the name that inspires absolute confidence.
Algernon gets it immediately. This name thing is serious business. He realizes he also needs to be christened Ernest. He dashes off to find Dr. Chasuble, suddenly very anxious about the whole christening procedure.
It keeps getting more tangled, doesn't it? Then Merriman announces another visitor. Miss Fairfax is called to see Mr. Worthing. It's Gwendolyn.
Cecily invites her into the garden. Their first meeting is just a masterclass in polite appearances versus bubbling tension underneath. They instantly declare they're going to be the greatest friends, trusting their first impressions.
Which is always a dangerous game in this play, built on false identities and, well, misleading impressions. Their instant bond starts to crack the second they realize they are both engaged to Mr. Ernest Worthing.
They whip out their diaries as proof. Cecily says she was proposed to 10 minutes ago. Gwendolyn claims it happened yesterday. The diaries, meant to be records of truth, just become weapons to assert competing, totally fictional realities. Their friendship dissolves into this beautifully polite but absolutely cutting hostility.
Oh, the tea scene that follows is just pure biting satire. Cecily knows Gwendolyn thinks sugar is unfashionable, so what does she do? Piles 4 lumps into her tea.
And then serves her cake instead of bread and butter, saying cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays. It's basically passive-aggressive warfare conducted with tea and cake, using these completely arbitrary social rules as daggers.
And they are genuinely furious. They see each other purely as an entanglement, arguing about sugar and cake with the kind of passion you'd normally reserve for, I don't know, inheritance disputes or matters of honor.
Right when things hit peak absurdity, Jack walks in. Gwendolyn immediately calls him Ernest and asks if he's engaged to Cecily. He just laughs, denies it. Gwendolyn calls him Mr. Worthing. Cecily jumps in. No, he's Mr. John Worthing, my guardian.
Then Algernon strolls in. Cecily calls him Ernest, asking if he's engaged to Gwendolyn. He laughs it off, too. Cecily calls him Mr. Moncrieff. Gwendolyn clarifies, actually, that's Mr. Algernon Moncrieff, my cousin.
Boom! The whole house of cards collapses. Jack is John, Algernon is Algernon. The girls realize they're engaged to basically no one real, and their shared outrage instantly unites them. They start calling each other sister. Their shared principle, the importance of the name Ernest, is suddenly stronger than any actual relationship.
They demand to know where this Ernest actually is. Jack finally has to confess, there is no brother, Ernest, never has been. The entire elaborate fiction is just gone, exposed.
The girls sweep indoors, utterly disgusted, leaving Jack and Algernon alone. And what do? Immediately start arguing about who's more trivial, who's the better Bunburyist, and then they actually start squabbling over leftover muffins and tea cake.
And the final, perfect comedic touch to end Act 2. They discover they've both made appointments with Dr. Chasuble to be christened Ernest that very afternoon. Jack at 5:30, Algernon 5 minutes later at 5:45. They end up arguing fiercely over who has the better claim to the name, even speculating if severe chills run in families.
Leaving them both absolutely desperate to get the name Ernest, the very thing they thought was the key to marriage, only to find the other guy is after the exact same key. It's brilliant chaos.
Which takes us right into the beginning of Act 3. We're back inside, in the morning room at the manor house. Gwendolyn and Cecily are looking out the window, watching the men.
And they see Jack and Algernon eating muffins. And they interpret this very specific act as undeniable proof of their shame and repentance. It's yet another example of assigning huge significance to something completely trivial.
Muffins is a sign of deep remorse. Only in this play. Anyway, the men come in, and after a bit of awkwardness, the girls confront them and lay down their conditions.
The men explain why they did it. Algernon says he pretended to be Ernest just so he could meet Cecily after hearing about her. Jack says he invented Ernest so he could escape to town and see Gwendolyn. The explanations are actually accepted as, factually true. But the girls declare their principals still aren't satisfied.
It's their names.
Yeah.
Their current actual Christian names, John and Algernon, are, they state, an insuperable barrier to getting married. The deception itself, forgivable apparently, but having the wrong name, absolutely not.
Luckily, it's a problem the men are already working on. They announce that they are both planning to be christened Ernest that very afternoon.
And the girls. They are immediately touched by this grand gesture, this apparent self-sacrifice, changing their name for love.
Yeah.
Just like that, they forgive them and reconcile. The completely arbitrary barrier is overcome by an equally arbitrary solution. It's amazing.
But just when you think things might be sorting themselves out, who should arrive unexpectedly? Lady Bracknell. She's followed Gwendolyn down from London.
Right. She's still absolutely against Gwendolyn marrying Jack. She also takes a moment to ask Algernon about the perpetually sick Mr. Bunbury.
And Algernon, with his cover completely blown now, just declares Bunbury is dead. He apparently exploded, which Lady Bracknell interprets as him having finally been found out. Her reaction, surprisingly approving. She's just glad the man finally made up his mind about something. Bunbury, the convenient lie, is just tossed aside. Now he's no longer useful.
Lady Bracknell then turns her considerable attention to Cicely, questioning who she is, what her connection to Algernon is. Jack identifies Cicely as his ward, and Algernon proudly announces their engagement.
Lady Bracknell comments, rather dryly, about the high number of engagements happening around here. But her focus quickly sharpens onto Cicely's background. She pointedly asks Jack if Cicely is at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London, a clear-cutting dig at Jack's own origins.
Jack, barely keeping his temper, defends Cicely using the exact terms of their social system. He lays out her impeccable background, granddaughter of the late wealthy Mr. Thomas Cardew. He lists 3 impressive addresses: Belgrave Square, Gervais Park, the Spore End up in Scotland.
He even offers proof. Court guides, army lists, that kind of thing. And he names her family solicitors, the highly respectable Messrs. Mark B, and Mark B a firm even Lady Bracknell has to acknowledge is top tier.
He even mentions her documents: birth certificate, baptism, vaccination, confirmation, whooping cough, registration, even certificates for German and English measles.
A life, as Lady Bracknell puts it, crowded with incident. But crucially, these external proofs, these markers of respectability, they completely satisfy her. The lineage, the property, the solicitors, these are the verifiable credentials that matter. Unlike Jack's handbag situation, suddenly Lady Bracknell is quite satisfied with Cicely's social standing, which removes her objection to Algernon marrying her.
Wow. So yeah, this deep dive really shows a society just completely obsessed with the surface of things, doesn't it? Where convenience totally beats sincerity and identity is just flexible, tied to names, made up stories, whatever works.
Definitely. We saw how these arbitrary social rules, the almost mystical power of a name like Ernest, even something as bizarre as being found in a handbag, can literally decide people's fates and relationships. The characters are constantly building and navigating these layers of lies, yet they treat the smallest, most trivial details with incredible seriousness.
And the source material cuts off, just as Lady Bracknell gives Cicely the social seal of approval. But the main issues: Jack's real identity, who actually gets to be called Ernest, and whether these engagements built on, well, total fiction can actually hold up, those are all still very much hanging in the balance for the play's finale.
Makes you think, doesn't it? In this world where pretty much everyone is pretending, where the name Ernest matters more than anything else, what does it actually mean to be earnest? Is it about the label you wear, or is it about who you genuinely are deep down? And maybe more importantly, in the world Wilde is showing us, which one actually counts?
Something to keep exploring.